Now, I would like to please appeal to our audience, our virtual audience, our physical audience, the question and answer segment. But we want to try and work within time. And this is also, please, to our panelists and our moderator.
As we leave the stage, I have special tissue that Chimamanda touched.
That's what I have to deal with. That's what I have to suffer. But that's understood.
I have the whole bag.
Good afternoon, ladies. Good afternoon, ladies. Wow, we need a lot of energy in the room. You know, we started in the morning with emotional health, our physical health. And then we went on to the session with Chimamanda, reminding us how our journeys, our various journeys in life could be, and how it was important to try. Now, the essence of having a good mental well-being, physical well-being, is because you're in this space to make a difference. And that's what we'll be talking about this afternoon. How do we as women, you know, create, sustain, and maintain change that leads to a lot of impact? And so I start the session with Fumi Arowogu. You're welcome. As the national president of the Network of Entrepreneurial Women of NECA and the Lagos State Coordinator of Development Research and Project Center, what does it take to succeed in the social sector?
Thank you so much. I want to say congratulations to WIMBIS on a very successful conference. And I want to thank them for this opportunity. So what does it take to succeed in the social sector? The first thing that I would say is to be resilient. Resilience. Life happens. You had planned a certain way to run your business or probably in the social sector, and something goes wrong. You have to grow the ability to quickly come back. So ability to be able to build that resilience, to be able to come back, is one of the things you need to be successful in the social sector. Also, you have to be audacious. Taking calculated risk. The young lady, during Chimamanda's session, she did what? Shots. And she got a mentoring session with her. People were saying no, but she got it because she took that risk. And that's what it takes as entrepreneurs and also in the social sector. You have to be audacious. You have to set targets and be focused. You must have presence of mind. So many things would distract you, but you would not allow them. You must also be a critical thinker to succeed. And for us, it's important because most times you discover that we do things in silos. And at DRPC, one of the things that we are doing, we bring women economic collectives together. When we work together, we can walk far. When you walk alone, the tendency is that you may walk fast, but you discover that you will soon burn out. You know? But when you work together, you can walk very far and you achieve more. A lone voice, there's a little you can do. But when we have our voices together, we can cause change to happen. At DRPC, what we fight for is that policies should be changed to favor women's economic empowerment. There should be increase in budget allocations towards women's economic empowerment. And that's what we advocate for. Prior to now, you discover that when budgets come out, they lump it together. They say for women and youths and the vulnerables. Eventually, when they are now implementing what comes specifically to women for women's economic empowerment, most times it's very, very little because they lumped it together. And because usually we don't have monitoring and evaluation, effective monitoring and evaluation. And when there is no effective monitoring and evaluation, there will not be transparency, there will not be accountability. And that is why I discovered that women have been at the other side, the other side of the table, not getting what is actually due to them. Post-COVID, a lot of things came out and we were hearing so much money for the women. But how much of these monies got to the hands of the women themselves? So, and that is what we do at DRPC. We bring out data because we know how important data is to see how much exactly is coming for the women. So,
sorry,
okay,
let me pause you there. The reason is because we're coming back to that question about what you do at the DRC and how it impacts entrepreneurs. You know, when you were talking, you talked about women being on the other side of the table. But I believe that WIMBI's women are the women who create their own table. Hello? We create our table. We bring our chair and we set ourselves, up. So thank you for that. I'll go on to our Honorable Commissioner. And there are many of us in the audience. When I learned you were going to be on the panel, I was curious. And I'm sure a lot of other people too are curious as to how has your journey, how did you get into politics? Because I also know you're into politics and the public sector. What was the attraction for you and how has the journey been so far?
Thank you very much, Moderator. I'd like to first and foremost thank WIMBI's for this opportunity. I've heard so much about WIMBI's, but I never thought I'll be a panelist at some point. So thank you very much for that opportunity. Well, I would say first and foremost that it's okay for people to be angry with government. It's okay to complain. It's okay to grumble. Because I did that about 25 years ago. 25 years ago, I had my own business. I was an internet service provider. I have my C-band VSAT. At that time, there was no GSM. People didn't have internet in their homes. We were giving internet to households. I had about 4 cyber cafes with phone booths for people to come and make internet calls. So I was doing very well. But each day I drove to work, I always got to work angry and frustrated because of the level of decadence of our society and the government at that time. The roads were always filled with refuse. At that time, I was also the president of the Good Women Fellowship in my church, so I had interactions with a lot of women. A lot of women would come to me to talk about their abusive husbands. They couldn't do anything about it. It was so bad that some men were sleeping with their daughters. The wives knew about it, but they couldn't do anything about it. At that time, you will be driving on the streets and you'll be worried about one person or the other coming to attack you. At that time, the roads were death traps. At that time, we had armed robbers with AK-47 attacking people and snatching vehicles on the road. And that was what was going on then. So I was always very angry and very frustrated. And I had this friend who was a politician in my local government who was always coming to me to talk about politics. I wasn't always interested. So one day I asked a question. The elections were approaching then. I said, who are the people contesting for so position? And she began to mention the names. I realized that these people were our domestic staff in our domestic quarters. And it occurred to me that all of us will continue to complain, we will continue to grumble, but we won't get into it to effect that change that we desire. So I decided that I was going to go into it. When I got into it initially, I was angry with politicians because I realized that most of them, all they did was politics. I had my own business. I was coming from my own personal business, and I'm like, they are just jobless people. They are very lazy people. But at some point, I found myself in that position. All I've done in 23 years is politics. When I got in, the first political meeting I attended, I told them I wanted to aspire for the House of Reps. Because of the caliber of people at that meeting, I became their leader. Because most of them were our domestic staff. I became a leader. And they all agreed for me to go for House of Reps. But when it got from the local government level to the state level, the leader said, no, you can't go. You have to step down for so family. Okay, that's fine. I stepped down for that family. I waited another 4 years. After 4 years, I contested again. They said, no, you have to let that family, that lady go for a second term. That's okay. I waited again. Let me tell you the reasons why I got into politics. 1, women emancipation. 2, I wanted a cleaner environment. If you can remember in the 90s, Lagos was very dirty. Heaps of refuse everywhere. Those were the 2 things for me. So at some point, for every time I was rejected, I'll put it that way, I was compensated by one office or the other. The first one, I was put on the board of Lagos State Sports Council, the only female member out of 9 board members. Then the second time I was asked to step down, I was given the position of the secretary to Apapa local government, the only female executive member of that board too. Then by 2007, I contested again. I was told to step down again. At that time, 16 people were aspiring to be the chairman of the local government. I was the only female. And they said, you, go and wait and be the vice chairman. Let the 15 men go to the battlefield. Unfortunately for me, the man that was chosen as the chairman was my little cousin, whom I was about 8 years older than. At that time, my family member said, don't take it. But my political leader said, you don't say no when they give you a political office. So I took it. Before that position, after I was secretary to the local government, my focus wasn't to remain at the local government level. I had always wanted to go to the federal. That was where I started from. But I realized that when the governor then, Babatunde Raji Fashola, came to power, most of the commissioners that were appointed were master's degree holders. So I told myself, you need to go and get your master's degree. I didn't stay in Nigeria. I went abroad. I got my master's degree. At that time, it was 2007. I had started preparing myself to be commissioner, even though I didn't even see the lights anywhere. Then I became the vice chairman twice. As the vice chairman, I was given a portfolio as the supervisory counselor for the environment. That was good for me because the environment was one of my focus. At that time, I was given an award as the best supervisory counselor for environment in Lagos State. And then at that time, because I was involved in my church, I began to plan some programs for women, to empower women. Because I realized that a lot of women were in abusive marriages because they were not empowered. I was vice chairman for 2 terms, and then I became the executive secretary. As the executive secretary, I was in charge. Executive secretary is like the chairman, but for the interim government. After that, I contested again to be the chairman. I failed again. At that time, I saw a gang up. It was very bad. There was no elections. There was nothing. They just came and said, so person is the next chairman. So I told myself, I can't continue with this. I left politics and I went back home. Mrs. Bola Adeshola said something in one of our programs, which was also repeated here now. I went to create my own table. She said, if you are not invited to a table, you create your own table. I went into business again, and I started this digital dance floor at Street Audrey's. At that time, I'd forgotten how to do business. I brought in these dance floors. I was one of the few that had it in Lagos, but I didn't even know how to market it. The thing was just there. I did it for 2 years, and I told myself, Bola, you have not effected the change that you desire. You have to go back into politics. So I began to re-strategize. Unfortunately for me, in 2019, I was appointed the Honorable Commissioner for Women Affairs. I was very excited because it's an opportunity for me to effect that change that I desire. A visionary leader must ignite change. And that's why we're here today, to talk about igniting the change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for her. I took down a few things, and it's about igniting change. We're all in our different corners. You know, how are we igniting change? I think something that was really instructive is your passion for seeing a cleaner environment, you know, led you. You wanted to change something. Instead of being on the outside and condemning everybody in the inside, they bend, they don't know how to bend, they stand, they can't stand well, you decided to go in. And, you know, even more instructive was the fact that you understood the undercurrents around you. And I think that's why you were patient. I like the fact that you decided to go back to school. You noticed how people were being appointed. And I think these are very instructive for all of us, including myself. How do we prepare for the next level? You don't, by the time you get to, you don't start preparing when you get to the next level. It is your acting at the next level that actually gets you the job at the next level. Thank you very much, Ma, for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bitches, I'm back with you. Okay, so, you know, a lot of us desire to create lasting social change, and you consistently do this as the UN Women Representative to Nigeria and the ECOWAS. How has the journey been? What has the journey to the top been like for you at that global level? And if you don't mind, please share with us some challenges you faced and opportunities that you seized in your career.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. I want to seize this opportunity to thank the Wimbies. I told them the last time that I always have confidence in them because when they organize things, they organize with excellence. And this is a proof. And I also want to tell you, I'm a Cameroonian. I hear some Cameroonians are over there. I'm a Cameroonian. Yes, I'm proud to be a Cameroonian. But there is one thing, I really appreciate Nigerian women. Nigeria is one of those countries that make us proud at the level of the continent and at the global level. Nigeria has produced one of the most talented, competent, intelligent, qualified women who are doing exploits in the world. So I'm proud to work in Nigeria. I'm proud to be with you. I'm even humbled to be with you. So thank you for this opportunity. For me, the journey started way back when I was small. I didn't come out from a family where we had educated people. My father died when I was too young to know him. So there was no example to actually look at and say, okay, it's a model, I want to be like this, I want to be like that. But I want to tell you, even in that deep forest where I was, and even with those kind of parents, I had a dream. And the dream was to become a great woman. So why I bring this point is those people you see walking outside there, those who are in the camps of internally and refugees, internally displaced people, refugees who are in the floods now and all those people, they also have a dream. And our role is to actually make that dream come to reality. So that dream that I had was actually brought about by the fact that I didn't like the condition of my family. I didn't like poverty. I didn't understand why I should be born in poverty. And thank God I knew that something could be done. So there was that dream, and that dream actually led me into choosing the kind of schools that I went. My parents didn't have the money, so I chose the public schools where I asked, where is that school where great men and women graduate from? And somebody told me, the Cameroonians who are here, they know I come from the southwest. I had decided to go to school in the capital, in Yaoundé. I did not know French, but I was ready to go to Yaoundé and do that French. That's how far my dream pushed me. The second aspect I would talk about my moving up is also the school system. The school system. You know, my mom used to come to the village, and because I was always first in my class, I was leading my class. The classes that I passed, I would lead them. So the teachers would come to my mom and tell my mom, whatever it takes, even if you have to sell your cloth and send this girl to school. So the school system was really encouraging. And then the other things that I would say is the encounters that I had. I encountered very wonderful people. I encountered men and women along my road. And one of those men that I encountered, who were actually selling in a pharmacy. My story is long, I don't want to go into it. We were selling in a pharmacy because I had to sell in that pharmacy to pay my school fees to go to school. So when I met this, he was also a colleague selling there. He always told me, the future is brighter. The future is brighter. And I accepted and I believed it. And I worked on it. And I believe it even as I'm sitting here, that I still have more in the future. The future is brighter. I also want to say another important thing is also my encounter with the Lord Jesus Christ. Because in the Bible, I saw there is a verse two verses that everything is possible to him that believes. This. Another one is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. Another one is, there is nothing impossible with God. And so I held that. I also met a lecturer at the time. I led that lecturer in the Pan-African Institute for Development for West Africa, where we trained African development officers. And this man taught us in class. He said, impossibility is found in the dictionaries of fools. So I told myself, so if this man can say this thing, what of myself? And I began to desire to teach in that school, to lecture, to be a lecturer in that school. But I knew I didn't have the qualification. And so let me tell you people a funny story. One day I went to his office. I told him, Mr. Ngwa, you see, I admire your position. But I know I don't have the qualifications. I am going to seek for the qualifications, and I will come back and lecture in this same school. And ladies and gentlemen, it happened as I planned and I said, and I did that, and I came back. I lectured in that school, and I left. But I also met very interesting women. One is, she was from Tanzania, Kerenge. I was actually, when I looked at the inequalities in life, in real life, I couldn't understand why women are behind, why there were so many things. I was blind to gender equality, gender inequalities. I didn't know. But I went to Pan-African Institute at that time as a student, and from that woman, she ignited something in me, the hatred for inequalities, and it has taken me more than 35 years. I am working to bring about gender equalities and women's empowerment. More than 35 years in different countries that I have been working. So for me, challenges, the first challenge was, first of all, to believe in myself, to have self-confidence. You know, when you come from that kind of background, you think maybe you are not up to those who are there. So I had to develop confidence in myself. And how do I develop confidence? I develop confidence by first having the capacity, having the knowledge, having the expertise, and producing results. So every organization, every country I have gone to work, I make sure I produce results. If you are somebody who produces results, even if they don't like you as a woman or as a tribe or whatever, when you produce those results, they will be forced to respect you. So even if they don't like to see my face, but they respect the results. And I also, in my work, decided to be irreplaceable. So I do my work in such a way that it will be difficult for you to find somebody easily to replace me. So you may not like me, but it will be difficult for you to replace me. You understand? And this is what women have to do. You have to become irreplaceable in such a way that if they say because she's a woman or this, but who can we put in her place? They will hardly find. So we have to be irreplaceable. And I also want to say that another thing that has also helped me is also connecting with men. You see, men are not the enemies of women. Men are not the enemies of women. I discovered that they are just as blind as other women are blind to gender inequalities. I've come to see that when you take time to explain to them about the rationale, the importance of gender equality, they become an ally. So I have men who would stand and say, no, we have to give this post to this woman. We have to do this. So that connection with men, I learned from them. I learned from the games men have the kind of games they play, For instance, we may think that men don't have issues. They have. They have issues amongst themselves, but they trash it very fast and they continue their journey. But women, when they have issues, they want to take it to eternity. It doesn't work for us. Yes.
Thank you very much.
So I can tell you, I can go on and on and on. But that is one of the things I would say is that I have also had challenges of women themselves. Yeah, sometimes I have had, if you would ask me, how do I judge female leadership and male leadership? Sometimes I cannot quickly say I go for one way or the other. Yes, but I think that our socialization process has made it a little bit difficult for women in management because you have to prove double what the man is doing.
So Beatrice, if you just hold on there, your next question actually is going to speak to that so that you can, expand a bit more when we get to the next question. Thank you so much for those nuggets. Become irreplaceable. Somebody says, when you leave an organization, do you leave a vacancy? Do they feel that you're gone? Or nobody knows that you passed through? Another thing I picked from you is that excellence gets you a foot in the door. The ability to lead, and be at the top, on the top of your game. Be the god of your game. I have a friend who says that, just be the god of your game. And it got her, into the door. Faith, the fact that you believe in something greater than you, and that you've been resourced with all that you need. We could go on and on. Thank you very much for sharing. I believe Meredith is with us. Meredith, I believe you can hear us. We can't hear you yet. Can you hear us? But we can't hear you. Okay.
Now you can hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
There we go.
Welcome, Meredith. So tell us a bit about your leadership. So Meredith is the CEO of Girl Scout New York.
Yeah, no, I will tell you a little. Well, I love the energy in the room right now, and I really wish I was there. I told Hansi, the great one, that she is the only person who could get me out of bed at 3 in the morning to speak. So it is a true honor to be here, and hopefully next year I will be here, be there in person with you all.
Thank you, Meredith. So tell us a bit about your leadership journey and what you do at the Girl Scout.
Thank you. Yeah, so many of you, or probably a lot of you in this room, are familiar with Girl Guides, the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. You have probably some experience with all of that. I wouldn't be surprised if many of you were Girl Guides when you were young. Girl Scouts of the USA is the largest oldest organization serving girls, creating a workforce pipeline, and focusing on the relative issues that affect women and girls. Our mission in Girl Scouts of Greater New York is to build girls of courage. We've heard that word all day: courage, confidence, and character, who make the world a better place. And my vision at Girl Scouts of Greater New York is to create a New York City in which every girl feels empowered to lead in her community, the workplace, and the world. My own journey here and to here today was not a traditional one. Beatrice, I love hearing your journey. Very similar. Grew up in a exceptionally humble background. Did not grow up in New York City. Grew up in remote America, small town, not with family means that focused on or prioritized education or advanced education. I actually left and became independent of my family when I was 18 years old and moved from a town of like 200 to New York City, driven by an ambition and a gut feeling that I needed to do something big, and that I would rather be a small fish in a big pond than a big fish in a small pond. What I learned later in my life, that gut and that fearlessness of making such a change at such a young age, stemmed from trauma. It stemmed from being a survivor of sex abuse as a child, and had to settle with that in my own individual way, to find where that as a woman set with me and what I could do with that. That was at a time and an age here in the US where those issues were not discussed and not talked about, and were silenced, right? And that I realized became the one thing that I needed to do, was to ensure that any other girl and any other woman were not silent and were able to use their voice and speak out. I spent many years, 20 years of my life, working in the profit side of the theatrical business here in New York City. It was a great way to surround myself with amazing and family and collaborative people, and to feel that support that we love in that kind of community, and create, which, is also that way that you just constantly need to distract yourself from dealing with what is the actual change that you were called to make. I am the mother of 5 daughters. So my oldest is 19, actually today is her birthday. My youngest is 7. So as I was having my kids, I was a working mom. My husband has been a stay-at-home dad for 19 years, which was a very different environment that I grew up with. So it was something that we've been very proud to give to my daughters, for them to see the role reversal model, and to set precedent for them that they don't have to, they can make their choices of what they need to do. Yeah, a total stay-at-home dad. It's awesome. Loving all the comments coming in. After having each of my girls, right, realizing that the statistics and the odds of having 5 daughters started to scare me. Because we know that 1 in 5, at least 1 in 5 women and girls have experienced sexual violence or sexual abuse in their life. That's reported, right? I know mine was not reported. I know most of my sisters in the world and colleagues has not been reported. So looking at my 5 daughters and realizing the statistics are so against them right now. And this world is so setting them up for not having their voice and not being heard and not seeing themselves in leadership positions and not releasing their ambition. And whether it was a midlife crisis or me following my calling or a combination of the two, I decided to leave my career and pursue coming back to the organization that I found as a youth empowering for me, which was Girl Scouts. I set a 5-year plan. I was 42 years old with 5 kids and the breadwinner of the family. And I took a complete leap of faith. And I was caught. I was caught in the hands of fate that said, this is where you need to be. This is where you're called to. And the door and opportunity opened up. I have been now working with the Girl Scouts and leading the organization going on 7 years. And every day I get to fulfill and satisfy that gut feeling that I always had my entire life, not ignore it, but let it out there for everyone to hear, and especially for young girls, including my own daughters, to set the example for them to follow their path and their gut.
Thank you very much, Meredith. Thank you. You know, as Meredith spoke, one thing that jumped at me is, can we not waste our pain? You know, a lot of us waste our pain. And what do I mean by not wasting your pain? Use your pain to get other people out of the same type of pain, or to prevent them from going through the same type of pain. And I like when she talked about taking the leap of faith. I'm sure that many of us seated here, and we've heard that from Chimamanda. There are times you need to take a detour. There are times you need to jump into the uncommon, the uncertain, to become, you know, to really discover yourself. Thank you very much, Meredith. So we go on to Fumi Arowogu. In terms of entrepreneurship, how is NECA positioned to bring about sustainable change for women pan-Nigeria?
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to give the full meaning of NECA. So NECA is Nigeria Employers Consultative Association. It was formed in 1957, and it's an umbrella body for all private sector employers in Nigeria. And the government consults with NECA on socio-economic issues, on labor policy issues. Now, how NECA has positioned itself is by creating the women's arm of NECA. And the women's arm is called NECA's Network of Entrepreneurial Women, where I am the president. And what we do basically to create that sustainable change is that it's a platform for women in business to come together, to dialogue upon issues that stifle their business growth. Also, one thing that is helping new is that NECA to help you is that we have national spread in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, devolving capacity from the national and cascading down to the different chapters where it is now localized, where they localized the resources, the system and the resources. And the issue of allowing women to thrive is uppermost on what we do. Mentorship, very critical, hand-holding. Experience sharing. When you know what we have passed through, especially for the younger women coming, very critical for us in new, to handhold them so that they will not reinvent the wheel. The mistakes that we, the older women, had made in our businesses, so that these younger women would not make it. They will have learned from us. And then capacity building, creating linkages, market linkages. These are the things that NECA and NEW are doing to ensure that there is sustainability for women. We can thrive, we can bloom, and we can grow. And I also want to talk about the DRPC. The fact that I was talking about what we do mainly in DRPC is to push for policies that would support women's economic empowerment. We all know that when a woman is empowered, she's not only empowered for herself. She is able to contribute her quota to her family. She helps her husband. She supports the family, takes care of her children. When the family is empowered, the community is empowered. Community is empowered, society is empowered. Societies have empowered, the nation is empowered. And so that's why women's economic empowerment is so critical. And knowing that women, we do a lot, adding to the GDP of the nation. But unfortunately, at the national and subnational and MDAs, they are not really, well, the narrative is changing now that we have more awareness, but they're not really pushing forth, policies that would really, really make it to be at the front burner to support women's economic empowerment. And so what we do at DRPC is to bring women economic collectives together, where NEW is one, WIMBY is one, AWARE is one, all women economic collectives in Nigeria, we come together with one voice. I said earlier, when we come together, we can make that change. We can ignite that change. We can make our nation better. And that is where we stand. Thank you very much.
Honorable Bolaji Dada, your portfolio focuses on women in Lagos State. And Fumi has said, and I believe women are powerful when women come together. You may not know it, but I'm sure businesses are being brought about in this room. The future is actually being made, created in this room. And so it's important to focus on women. As the Honorable Commissioner with the responsibility of that portfolio, maybe you want to share with us some interventions you've put in place and some future plans that you have. And really, also in your view, how do you think women can contribute to nation building?
Thank you very much. Like I mentioned earlier on, it took me 23 years to get to this level. It took me 23 years to focus on a vision that I'd had a long time ago. So I came in as the Commissioner for Women Affairs with so much passion to help women, especially the vulnerables in Lagos State. In the last 3 years, I'm going to give a short report of what we've done in the last 3 years. I might not be able to give everything because of our time, but I'll just quickly run through it. We have about 19 skills acquisition centers spread across the 5 divisions of Lagos State. And in the last 3 years, about 16,900 women and youths have graduated from those centers, where about 20 vocations are being taught. we have a program called the Micro Enterprise Support Scheme, where we give enabling materials to widows, to women, to youths, and women in the rural areas. About 8,885 women have benefited from that program. When we started that program, when I came on board, that program was done once a year, where about 450 women were empowered annually. I realized that going with that would not impact on too many women at the end of my 4 years tenure. So I took a proposal to Mr. Governor to say we should increase that program. Initially, I said every month, and the Executive Council said no. If you do it every month, you won't be able to handle it. So it was approved that we have it every quarter. And then instead of the 450, we increased it. So far, we've empowered about 8,885 in that scheme. And then we have a farm in Badagry called the Avia Farm, where 2,150 women have been trained on vegetable and cassava farming, and free farmlands were given to them all. About 13,500 women and youths were trained in a 4 weeks short-term training. That training is for vocations that people wouldn't need shops or big capital to start their own businesses. Vocations like gele tying and makeup, adire tie and dye, cake making, events planning and decoration, Ankara crafts, and we have trained about 13,500 women and youths. What we did was we took that training to different categories of people. We have trained people living with HIV. We've trained people living with sickle cell anemia. We've trained people who are about to retire in civil service. We've trained internally displaced people in the IDP camp. We've trained mothers of out-of-school children, because at some point we realized that the attrition level of out-of-school children was very high. And we realized that we needed to keep children in school. The only way children can be in school is when their mothers, especially, are empowered.
Thank you.
So we've trained. No, please. I have so much to say.
Because I'm just told that we ran out of
time. Okay, let me just give the figures. I won't need to explain so much. We have about 2,750 women on free medical checks. It was talked about this morning that women need to check themselves. We had a program called Women Assembly, and during that program, we realized that a lot of women do not care about themselves. They care about their children and their husbands. And we realized that we needed to make women check themselves medically. So about 2,750 women have checked themselves free of charge. Then we talked about various violence against women and even boys. We had 750 student union leaders of various tertiary institutions where we sensitized them against all forms of sexual and gender-based violence. We also had sensitization programs for about 600 parents on parenting,
Honorable
200 marriage registrars, 3,000 widows, 2,100 families were given support food materials. And then over 10,000 women have benefited from various collaborations from United Women's Spotlight Initiative, UNFPA, NGO.
That's the spirit we're talking about. Don't let up.
We have touched about 65,000 women so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bitches, I'm told we're running out of time, but considering women face multiple challenges in Nigeria, and you wanted to delve into some of those while you were speaking earlier, how do you think as a nation we can convert these challenges to opportunities for women?
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I'm going to go quickly. When you look at statistics, you will see that feminization is going in the negative sense. Feminization of poverty, feminization of mortality, feminization of morbidity. For instance, if we take maternal mortality, we have 850 women losing their lives for every 100,000 live births. And in some areas, it's about 1,500 women. When you take poverty, you realize, though WIMBIs, yes, but if you look at the general picture, women own 10% of all the resources in Nigeria. When you look at the statistics in institutions, you see we have about 4%. All these things are structured. They are structured around our culture, our custom, our laws, and the way we do things. So, UN Women is a UN agency that was created to promote gender equality and women's empowerment. We do a couple of things, but I will summarize. We work in fulfilling 3 arrows. The first arrow is rights. Nigeria has ratified a lot of conventions. If it is in terms of conventions, judicial texts, protocols, Nigeria is up there. But to implement it is an issue. So the first thing is we work with parliaments, we work with the Ministry of Women's Affairs, we worked with the state levels, the governors forum and all those, is to make sure that we have appropriate laws that facilitate, that create an environment where women can unleash, they can use their full potentials. The second thing is representation. If I'm not where you are talking about me, you might actually be talking against me. So there is need for women to sit on the table. And what we do in that representation, we have women in politics. We have had meetings with WIMBIs. We work in terms with INEC. We work with media. And today I'm appealing to you all, get your PVC. And please, we have one party, and that party is the Women's Party. Wherever there is a woman standing in, please vote for that woman if we want to make things go ahead. Mm-hmm. The third thing we are doing is to make sure that resources go to women. When money goes to the women, things change in the home, things change in the community, things change even at the state level, and why not national level. How do we do this? We do this first, we fight against gender-based violence. Gender-based violence, we may look at it and think it's a small thing, it has nothing, it's dealing only with the person, but I come to tell you, studies have shown, the World Bank has carried out studies that show that gender-based violence has the capacity, the ability to reduce our gross domestic product. It means gender-based violence is detrimental to economic growth. This is something that we are fighting against. Another thing we do is women's economic empowerment. We do it through climate-smart agriculture that is digitally assisted. We have a platform we call Buy From Women. Buy From Women gives real-time information to women in terms of the climate, the markets, the inputs, so a woman can produce anywhere and sell anywhere. In fact, I'm hurrying. The second one we do is through supporting women's businesses. The third we are doing now is this affirmative procurement. We are saying for all public contracts, what percentage goes to women? And today I heard that WIMBIS is also advocating for 30%. Last but not the least, we are also supporting women in the peace and security processes. Women need to be sitting at the table in all those decision-making mechanisms of peace mechanisms. Women need to sit there. Women need to sit and talk about their needs, their humanitarian needs. Because when there is forceful displacement, men, they have a different way they react to it. But women, we can have pregnant women, we can have lactating women, we can have women with disabilities. So forceful displacement is different from for women, and as it is different from men. So we work to make sure that women occupy that space, and that the response plan for humanitarian action in the country reflects the needs of women, takes into consideration gender. I know my time is up, but what I want to say, if this nation is supposed to grow economically, if this nation is supposed to be peaceful, if this nation is supposed to be cohesive, women have a big role to play. And so I would advise the nation to give women more space, more resources, more representation, more opportunities, so that our great country, Nigeria, can go ahead. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you. Meredith, I think we're back to you and then we round up. Yes, I can see that she's up here. And so the last question I have for you, as a very young child, I went for a few, extracurricular. I'm sure a lot of people here, the brownies, the girls. I didn't know Girls Scout, but I knew brownies, I knew the Girls Guide, and all of that. So, is there any plan? Are there plans to revive this in Nigeria? And how is the Girl Scout positioned to accelerate the achievement of SDG 5? Meredith, are you with us?
I am here.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. Great questions. One, I would gladly come to Nigeria and work with the Girl Guides there and move things forward. It is an incredible program. There's been ebbs and flows with youth serving programs and challenges and deprioritization of funds. And of course, as we know, anything that funds women and girls, even in philanthropy, tends to be the least on the priority list. So one of the things that we need to do worldwide is make sure that women and girls maintain a priority in philanthropy. So when we are out there asking for that money, whether it's yes or whether it's no, it needs to be prioritized for women and girls, because that is the only way as a world that we are going to get past this and make sure that these programs continue. We are so committed to SDG 5 and 10. And for us, about making sure that positions are filled in that workforce pipeline. Just want to share with you, in the US, 76% of female electeds in Congress were Girl Scouts. 72% of women in STEM, working in the STEM industry, were Girl Scouts, and 76% of women who are top executives in business and entrepreneurship in the US were Girl Scouts. The record of the leadership program really has been consistently putting young women. Empowered girls become empowered women. And we just always need to remember that we have to fuel the pipeline. And I think that WIMBIZ does that with the mentoring program, and Girl Guides can do that by doubling down on the programs that you have in Nigeria. One of my proudest accomplishments in Greater New York is we serve about 38,000 girls in the 5 boroughs of New York City, supported by 7,000 female volunteers. It is an incredible sisterhood. 70% of the girls that we serve are low-income girls from low-income families. Many are undocumented, and of course, the effects of our systemic issues here in the United States is that parallels with 70% being girls that are Black and brown girls. That is a lot of the realities that we are facing of working against the systemic racism that exists here in the United States. We are here as an organization to ensure that there is equity and focusing on the communities that need us most. I launched a program 5 years ago called Troop 6000, which is the first program to work in partnership with the City of New York in the shelter system. We have served more than 2,000 women and girls who are experiencing homelessness, and we are about to launch an incredible expansion by extending our services to the youth, female youth that are seeking sanctuary here as a sanctuary city in New York City from the refugees. So this work for me is ensuring that the equity of having leadership. Leadership should not be defined by your socioeconomic status, by the color of your skin, by your religion. Leadership for girls needs to be established as an equitable opportunity for every girl in New York City. And we will commit to doing that and making sure that that equity and access. We are also expanding all of our programs to be physically accessible and mentally accessible for girls of all abilities, ensuring, again, that there are no barriers for participation. Every girl deserves that journey, and every girl deserves to be ending up in this room at the tables with you women.
Thank you very much, Meredith. Thank you. And I think that brings to a wrap because we've really run out of time. So over to you.
Thank you so much. Can we please give our wonderful plenary a round of applause? In the interest of time, we can only take one question from the audience and one question virtually. So whoever's the first to get to the microphone. Ooh, that was quick. Smooth.
Hello.
Please go ahead.
I'm not sure it's working. Is it working?
It is working. We can hear you.
Thank
Can you
very
please
much.
put this in the middle? Okay, thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My question goes to the lady from Ministry of Women Affairs. My name is Bemi Sola Ladito. And I serve on the advisory board of one of the shelters in Lagos State that caters to battered women, victims of domestic abuse. And my question stems from the fact that we found that, yes, the Lagos State Ministry of Justice does a lot in assisting these women. But when it comes to the point of them needing shelter, the resources are just too limited. And we find that, yes, we partner with Lagos State, but so often we have to say, no, there's no space, there's no space. So I want to know, what is your ministry doing in this regard, and not only in the area of shelter, but in other practical areas of giving these women the support that they need to get out of their situations and be able to move on in life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One more question, and that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. That's similar to what I wanted to ask, and I'm directing my question to the Honorable Commissioner as well.
All right, so that
my name is Bimpe Adebisi, and I wanted to, find out that for women in repressive and abusive relationships, what is your ministry doing in terms of training? Getting the right personnel to help such women, and also, what is your ministry doing to ensure that this information gets to them, that they know that they can go to a safe place where they will get a fair hearing, where they will not be judged, and where they can get the required help that they need?
Thank you very much for those questions. On the shelter, we have a shelter that is going to kick off very soon in Agidingbi. It's been built, but we're trying to furnish. And in that center, we also have a skills acquisition center. And the plan is when women, survivors of all forms of violence, come into our shelter, we wouldn't just keep them there. We would also train them on a skill so that when they leave, they can stand on their own. The Skills Acquisition Center has kicked off, but we are yet to start the shelter. And the reason why we haven't started the shelter is because that place was supposed to be a caregiver center, and we converted it to a shelter. So we're still working on that. Before the end of this year, it will be commissioned. About the survivors of domestic violence, I wasn't allowed to reel out all that we do as regards psychosocial counseling. We have a department in the Ministry of Women Affairs saddled with the responsibility of domestic violence issues. We have a help desk where people can go to and complain. And we have a program called the Purple Project, where people can call in 767. When you call 767, there are people that will pick up your call, listen to you, direct you on what to do, and send you help. And there are a lot of advocacy and sensitization programs for people that we regard as influencers. We've had sensitization and advocacy with religious leaders, with community leaders, like I said earlier on, with student union leaders, because we realize that those are the people who have influence, who have people that they can reach out to let them know that such systems and programs are available for them in Lagos State government. And there is an agency that is saddled with just that responsibility. LSC, DSVRT, Domestic Violence Response Agency, where all they do is to respond to all forms of reports of gender and sexual-based violence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause once again. Let's appreciate our wonderful panel for this time that they've spent with us. Now let's welcome a member of the WIMBY's Board of Trustees, Furera Isma Jumeirah, to please join us on stage for photographs and the presentation of gifts. Can we please put our hands together for her? Remember to share the nuggets. Lots of wise words have been dropped. Share what you're learning on Twitter, and remember to tag us. We keep emphasizing this because we want you to do this, right? Thank you. DJ, can you please give us a bit of soft music?